telling the kids who went to Revenge of the Smith last night, Jason's favorite moment in this movie, the thing that he always fucking laughs at, is so throwaway. Nobody laughed at it tonight and shit, but whenever it happens, it makes me fucking tickles me if he's around. He wasn't here for the exact moment this time, but all throughout the making of the movie and all throughout the editing of the movie and shit like that, when we went to the premiere, he would always fucking laugh, and he still laughs about it to this day. This Paul Dini, who is co-creator of Harley Quinn, he's the clapper on the set of Blunt Man and Chronic. So he walks in, and right before he does Blunt Man and Chronic, scene 1, he goes, "You guys look pretty badass." And Muse is always like, "That's fucking hysterical."
We had to stop a few times because I couldn't stop laughing. Like I just started cracking up. And he's like, "What are you laughing at?" He's like, "Cut."
He was like, I think you were laughing derisively, like, he's such a terrible actor.
Oh my God.
The other scenes that we did where Muse would not stop laughing was Sean William Scott. Like, fucking legit cracked him up. Fucking like, "Of course. And I love animals."
Yeah, we were in the band, you were in the band and they're rocking it outside, and we were inside, and I just kept laughing because he'd look at me and go, "Of course." Also funny.
All right, where do we want to go next? Yes.
Alright, so it's kind of a two-part one. So the first part will probably be longer. How hard is it to actually win a lightsaber fight against Luke Skywalker?
When you write the script, it's very easy to win that fight.
I know, right?
Where the fuck was Harrison Ford? Like, was he just like, "Oh, fuck you"? Was it a scheduling thing?
You gotta remember, when we made this movie, Star Wars was like kind of done. They weren't like, and they certainly weren't fucking with the legacy cast, as they call them and stuff. So Carrie and Mark did not know that they were both gonna be in the movie and shit. If they had, I'm sure one of them would have been like, that's okay. But they wound up both being in the flick. I remember Carrie was surprised Mark was in the flick. Mark was surprised that Carrie was in the flick, and they never crossed over whatsoever. Harrison Ford remained a massive fucking movie star. So for us to get him, we'd have not enough money to get him into the fucking cast. But I remember like people were like, "You got 2, you get the 3rd?" I was like, "We got a better chance of getting Peter fucking Cushing, this dead Grand Moff Tarkin, than getting fucking Harrison Ford." I was telling the kids last night when we did Revenge of the Smith, one of my favorite memories of that movie when we were shooting is when we did the entire Blunt Cave sequence. My family came out. So my mom and my dad were there, my brother and sister. My sister was recently married and had a kid like 1 year younger than Harley and stuff. And so they were there when Mark was shooting. And so between, Mark wasn't always on camera, there was a stunt double and stuff. There was a stunt double for me, like the guy who runs up the ladder and flips, that was not me. If you look very closely, you could always tell, like, that's a thinner Silent Bob. He's also the one that dives into the hole, the bulbous ass. That's not my ass is much more bulbous. That was Mark, his name was, I think, Mark. So while Mark Hamill was not shooting, no, Mike, that was Mike Double's name. Mark, I was thinking Mark Hamill. So while Mark Hamill wasn't shooting, he was sitting in his chair near the monitors and shit, because we always put up monitors so people can watch the making of the movie as well. And my parents, who were sitting there behind the monitor as well. And so Mark is like such a super polite guy and real sweet and whatnot. He's been in the business forever and stuff. So he was engaging with my parents, and he was talking to my mom, and he was just like, "You must be so proud of your son. Like, look, like this must be so weird for you." And she's going, my whole life has become weird because when he was little, he used to play with your action figure, and now he just plays with you. All right, where do we want to go next? Yes.
Do you guys have a favorite memory of showing this film to someone?
Yes. You go first.
Well, I mean, I don't remember showing the film to anyone. You know what? For me, it's like, no, seriously though, for me, it's the reason, like he said earlier when before we started the movie, it's not that I'm not a Kevin Smith fan, it's because I don't like watching myself. And I still did. I'm even more so then because it was like, I still had only done a couple movies. I did Clerks, which I was super nervous. And then one scene in Chasing Amy Mallrats and Jen Bob, but I just don't like watching myself. And then especially in that one where I feel like, I was 200 pounds and like was fluffy and shit and just, I don't know, it was so much fun making it, but watching it once for me was good enough because whenever I came up on the screen, especially this one, where I'm in almost every scene, it's hard to sit and watch myself. And then I would sit and judge and be like, why does my voice sound that way? And I'm like, well, I guess that's what it sounds like from the outside, but not always. I don't know. It's just really weird to watch myself. So I never really was like, hey man, you got to come see this movie that I'm in and I made and check it out. It was really just a premiere. I had invited some people and I wanted them to see it. And of course, excited that that I got to be the lead in the movie and my name was in the title and all that. But yeah, so otherwise, besides that, yeah.
My favorite person, or my favorite moment of showing the movie to somebody was years after we made this movie. We were living in Los Angeles in the house we live in right now. And it was Affleck's house. So Affleck had put like a kick-ass projection system that like came lowered out of the ceiling and a screen that lowered up in the living room and stuff. So we had a TV, but periodically we would lower the screen and watch like movies writ large. So it was, let me see, Harley was about 4 or 5 years old or something like that. And one night she was up there watching, we were watching a kid's movie, and I think we watched the Scooby-Doo movie. Harley was a massive Scooby-Doo fan, live action Scooby-Doo. So I said to Jenna, I was like, let's show her Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. And I was like, because it's kind of like a cartoon, like it's very bright and poppy and shit. And we've got a Scooby scene in the fucking movie. So, Jennifer was like, we can as long as we do it with the sound turned down. And I was like, okay. And so we were really interested in seeing her see herself as a baby, like in the movie, and then see like Dad and Mom and Uncle Jay and like everything and stuff. So we showed her the movie with the sound turned down. She was kind of like oddly fascinated. And she didn't like seeing herself, quite like Muse, she didn't like her own performance and shit. She didn't like seeing herself as a baby. She thought it was weird. But when we got to the Scooby scene, she like saw the mystery machine and was like, what the? And so that scene goes on and plays. And so afterward, I was watching her the whole time. She was staring at the screen. And when that scene was over, I paused and I was like, what do you think? Like, Dad met the Scooby Gang. Dad knows Scooby-Doo. And she was like, that's not Scooby-Doo. What do you mean? Of course it was Scooby-Doo. She was like, no, Shaggy wears a green shirt. I was like, oh, you're just like the fucking internet. It was lovely to like show her like herself and me and like her mom. Like in those days, when she was young, she was a huge fucking fan of Jennifer, way more than me. Like she worshipped the fucking ground Jennifer walked on, and I was just the guy that hung around with Jennifer and shit like that. And so every time she saw Mom, like her mom, she just lit up like fucking Christmas and stuff. It was really, really sweet. One of my fondest memories of watching somebody watch that movie. But I wish that I'd run a camera on myself in the back tonight watching, because I was just grinning from fucking ear to ear, man. Like, especially like every time he says the fucking thing, it absolutely destroys me. You're so fucking adorable and like funny in the movie. It still cracks me up to this day. All right, where do we want to go? Yes. What was it like working with Suzanne? That's something you'll never see again in this lifetime, right? Like, they don't let you work with real animals anymore. In the age of CG, it's just like, if we were going to do this movie today, it would cost $5 to $10 million more, because Suzanne would be a digital effect from beginning to end. It would be like Sean Gunn with dots on his face, replaced later on digitally by effects. So this was one of the last flicks where you could actually work with real live animals. We thought it was going to be amazing, right? Because that's why I wrote her into it. I was like, oh my God, we'll get to hang out with a fucking ape the whole movie. It's going to be amazing. And in order for Tango was her real name. In order for Tango to interact with us, we could not play with her. She had to see us as props. That's how she was trained. So everyone else on set could swing her around and play with her and fucking kiss her and hug her and shit like that. She was a big hugger. But we were not allowed to. Like, we can only interact with her during the scenes. And then she interacted with us based on our colors and treated us like fucking props. So it was weird. It was weird. It was like being Tantalus in the lake. You go to take a drink and the fucking lake disappears and shit like that. Being that close to like utter joy, but not being allowed to enjoy, was such a fucking hell on earth. But I remember as I was watching the scene at the end when like Justice and Jay kiss and fucking me and Tango kiss. Like, if you watch my performance, I'm fucking terrified. Because, like, apes can go either fucking way. When they get to a certain age, you cannot work with them anymore because they kind of go, not feral, but like.
I think she actually bit her trainer's fingers and she had to be
It's not a
retired.
trainer's fingers. She went for fucking you. In the scene where she goes through the tunnel and Jay catches her on the ground right before Silent Bob tries to dive into it and shit. He had a line. He caught her and he said something to her, and then he called up to Silent Bob like, "Yo, Lunchbox, hurry up," or whatever. We wound up cutting it to keep the scene pace. But in the raw footage, and like we all saw it, like I was behind the monitor, and the trainers were like right there, right off camera. So she comes through the tube and fucking lands, and Jay has her and says something pithy, and then he goes to call up, and you see her go like here's Jay's hand on her, and she goes. And she bared her fucking teeth and went to bite, and those fucking trainers came out of nowhere, man, like they were fucking ninjas, and tackled Tango to the ground, like, "What are you doing, Tango?" And she was like, "Ah!" And Jay's like, "What happened?" I was like, "You almost lost a fucking finger, is what happened."
That was sad when they would hold her down and she like, and they would hold her lips like they hold her lips and stuff.
That was who the other, whenever like they were disciplining her and stuff, they grab her lips and she would go, "Ah!" And we were like, "Don't do that." And like, she loves this.
So was that your final plan when you had the orangutan and the Mallrats, or was that a throwaway?
The orangutan appearance at the end of Mallrats was literally us on the set of Mallrats, me and Mosier, and talking and like patting ourselves on the back. I was like, "Man, this movie has everything." And Mosier goes, "Everything but a monkey." I was like, "Oh my God, you're right." And so Laura Greenlee was our line producer, and I was like, "Laura?" And she's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Can we get a monkey for the movie?" And she goes, "Sure." And so like I wrote this little bit. We were in California. We shot the whole movie in Minnesota, but like we were in California. We did the Tonight Show bit at the end of Mallrats. That was in California. We did a bit that got cut out, which was like me and Jay standing on a rooftop. And it was like a Jay and Silent Bob. That was a different story. That was kind of leading toward like One Man in Chronic or something. But instead, we wound up doing the monkey thing. They showed us the cityscape, but it just didn't really look right. So we shot it, but we didn't use it. But then we went and did that scene where we went out fucking, I don't know where we were, man. It was north. It was almost when you're heading up to the Grapevine, to that long walk with holding an orangutans in. And they brought out the orangutan, and we threw her in there. Her name wasn't meant to be Suzanne. It was just because the song at the end was called Suzanne. So we were like, "And Suzanne," and stuff like that. But that was never the plan, to do a movie with an ape. I had done the Jay and Silent Bob mini-series that like took comic book mini-series that took them. It was called Chasing Dogma. It took them from the end of Chasing Amy to their first appearance in the beginning of Dogma when they show up in the movie. And in the process of writing that, I was like, "Oh shit, I'm going to tell the story of Suzanne in the comics and stuff." And so I took a little piece of that mini-series and threw it in here. All the Suzanne stuff came from that mini-series. It was truncated. It's kind of like what Marvel does, where they take a comic book story and they remix it and shit. And I remember there was somebody on the internet that was like, "You fucked with your own legacy." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they were like, "That story doesn't match the story in Strike Back. And if this is a story that takes place between Chasing Amy and Dogma, what did they meet that monkey twice? Like, you fucked yourself." And I was just like, "Wait, you think I fucked myself? Wait till yoga hosers and shit like that." But they were really incensed that I kind of told the monkey story twice, because the Chasing Dogma was meant to be like a canon story that happens between the two movies. And then we were making Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I was like, "Oh, it'd be fun to like do the monkey storyline, or rather the ape." That's what they always told us. We call her a monkey, and they're like, "It's not a monkey has a tail. This is an ape." And we were like, "All right, fucking."
The multiverse.
Multiverse, that's right, that's right. Fucking years later, I could just chalk it up to the multiverse.